Hello, I am Adriana, and I'm going to share with you how to have meaningful recreation and leisure in your life, and tips and tricks on how to cultivate your moments. Today I have guest speaker Meagan Young. She is a practicing recreation therapist, a recreation therapy blogger, and now a YouTuber. I'm excited to share this topic with you. Today we are going to be talking about flow state and what flow is. Hello, Meagan. It's great to have you on. I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So my name is Meagan Young. I am a recreational therapist. I've been a recreational therapist for 8 years now. I'm originally from the east coast of Canada. So I grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, went to university in Newfoundland and Labrador, and have kind of been all over the map ever since. Right now, I am in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I'm working as a rec therapist at a city parks and rec department with individuals who have physical, intellectual, or developmental disabilities. And yeah, so that's my professional life. Personally, in my own free time right now, um, I started a blog called Grow Through Flow a few years ago. I'm working on a YouTube channel, just trying to keep myself busy. All these multi passionate projects.
Yes, for sure. I know that you started a holistic wellness thing in your blog, and I wanted you to talk about that because I know it's a excitement in your life right now.
Yeah, so I would say back in March when this whole situation started, um, I was thinking about my own health and wellness as well as the health and wellness of other frontline workers and what I could put together or the information that I could start sourcing to hopefully help people through a challenging, weird, strange time. Um, and what I ended up coming up with was sharing some information and writing for my blog about the different domains of holistic wellness. And so I chose a few to focus on that I felt really strong about writing on. I did a deep dive one on emotional health and environmental health and physical health. So I wrote a series about it, and I really enjoyed doing it.
For sure. That's awesome. I was so excited about it. I know I was doing like recreation activities for domains of wellness, so it kind of complemented each other, which was really nice.
Yeah, I remember I linked your article in one of my, it might have been the emotional health one, but you had such great resources and very practical information for people, so I wanted to share it.
For sure. Thank you. Um, the question that I'm going to be asking all guests, and I want to ask you, is
Mhm.
what does meaningful recreation and leisure look like to you?
It's a great question. So I think meaningful recreational leisure is always specific to the individual because it's never like a one size fits all. We're such unique humans, and we all have unique skills and talents and interests. So I think what it really comes down to is something that the person who's doing it truly enjoys. Because if somebody was like, Megan, I really want you to try knitting, I would be like, no thank you. like Not for me. But if they're like, hey Megan, I want you to come, try, yesterday I went stand up paddleboarding. I kind of like that higher end, a little bit challenging physical activity leisure. So I think meaningful rec and leisure is always specific to the person, and hopefully once your skills kind of match the challenge, that you're able to enter into a state of flow. And I know we're probably going to chat all about flow state,
Yeah,
but I think that's what's really important about rec and leisure.
for sure. Awesome. Thank you. My next question is your background. So I know your blog is called Grow Through Flow. I know you kind of rebranded for your YouTube channel, but I wanted to know the backstory on how you came about that name.
So when I was in university, I think it was my second year, maybe my first year in the rec therapy program. I took a social psychology of leisure course, and we learned about the term flow. And it was like the first sort of light bulb moment where I was able to draw between theory and my own personal life and my own growth. And so learning about that concept of just and the term flow, it's just such a cute, cool word, and just learning about how many benefits and the meaning that it provides for people's lives and how it can affect your total complete holistic health. It's just like a concept that has stuck with me through my practice and through my personal life. So when I started the blog back in the fall of 2018, I was kind of going through my own like mental health journey. I struggled a little bit in my 20s with some depression and anxiety. And at the stage that I started my blog, I was definitely like on my path to wellness, but needed some like meaning and some purpose in my life. Something that where I could take like the energy that I was sitting with and use it in a productive way. So it was kind of this like perfect combination of my education background and my profession background, and also like what I needed personally in my life at that time, which was growing through the flow of life.
That's awesome. I love that. I know for myself, even having the blog, and like thank you for sharing, and like I'm so excited to see like where everything is going to go to. And I know for myself personally, even in like the little bit I've been running all of my blogs and Instagrams, I've definitely changed how I'm running it. I wanted to know if from the start of when you first created your blog, if there's been any changes or perspective shifts.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's a great question. Um, so when I started my blog, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I think I had a Pinterest board on how to start a blog but I literally had to learn everything, like how to get a domain, how to start a WordPress account, how to SEO. So slowly but surely, I kind of put the pieces of those puzzles together. But my first couple of blog posts were almost like journal entries. It was more of like a therapeutic process for me. And I still enjoy writing like that. Like if you read my Instagram posts or my Facebook posts, I'm sure it's going to come out in my YouTube videos as well as I keep going with that. But it's really kind of just like this real time journal of lessons that I'm learning, either professionally or personally, and bringing them together and just trying to share the knowledge that I'm acquiring. So I like looking back to my first couple of blog posts because they weren't like very professional. There's quite a few like grammatical errors, and it doesn't they're not SEO friendly, but they were like very proportionate to where I was at that stage in my journey, and what I really was looking for was a therapeutic outlet. So now as I like have continued on, I've learned a lot more about like the industry of online learning, and just kind of that whole gamut has become a passion of mine, and almost like taking skills as a recreational therapist and pivoting towards the online world. So I think for me, it's just been growth and knowledge. And I try to keep that same voice that I had in my first few blog posts and my first few Instagram posts, where it's just me trying to like be as authentic and as real as I can be, but maybe just a little bit more polished or more online friendly.
Yes, I only have like, I don't know, 10 to 15, but looking at mine, I recognize that as well. Yeah.
It's fun to look back to see like your journey as you go, and it's almost like each and every blog post that I wrote, I learned something new.
Mhm.
And that's just part of the process too. Like you're never going to be perfect when you start, and like no one's ever perfect, but just starting is like the best way to learn.
Exactly, for sure. Thank you. So let's get into like the hot topic of this podcast. So you're gonna be sharing a little bit about flow because I know flow is really meaningful to you. Uh,
Hmm.
so tell us a little bit about flow.
Yeah, so flow is this positive psychology concept, which is all about engagement and engagement in life. Um, And flow happens when you're engaged in any activity. So it could be a rec and leisure activity, it could be your work, it could be, I don't know, running errands, doing things around your house, whatever the activity is. When the challenge of the situation and the skills that the person have meet and they kind of like expand together, you enter into this state of flow where you're so consumed and you're so like in that present moment and in that activity that you're not having anxious feelings about the future, you're not caught up in negative thoughts about the past. Like you're truly mindfully living in that moment. And being able to do that and for like a prolonged period of time is so healing and so transformative for the human like mind, body, soul, that it really is just like you're growing and you're becoming this healthy, holistic version of yourself, which is why I think recreational therapy is so impactful, is that that's like a basic concept that we all work on. Like we're trying to help our clients enter into the state of flow through different rec and leisure activities, and just knowing the benefits and how it can impact somebody's life. You know, state of flow is an engagement in life, is it really comes down to like what you're doing and your meaning, which I think is so powerful.
Hey guys, so I was just editing and I realized that we never said the name of the person who created flow theory. So I am going to try to pronounce the name. If I don't, that's okay. I'll leave all the links below for all the theories we talked about. So we talked about flow theory and flow state. So I'll leave a few links below. His last name is Mihai Cheek Sent Mihai. I will link it below. That's awesome. What are some personal benefits that you've noticed when you are in a state of flow?
Definitely feeling rejuvenated. Um, I was talking to my coworkers the other day about, the last 2 months being so strange, and it was almost like a sabbatical, like being off of work and off of your regular routines and patterns. But I had quite a few opportunities to enter into a state of flow because, I was working on creative projects that I really enjoyed. I was able to do some things at home and with my partner, that just, induced a state of flow. And I just, like, prior to these 2 months, I didn't realize how much stress I had accumulated. Like when you're going through the motions of day to day life, I don't know if we're always aware of like what's underneath the surface. And I kind of like, if I was going to give an example, it'd be like a bucket of water. And every time a stressful event happens, say like you're filling up the water, like bucket, and I would say like my water line was like 2 inches from the top.
Yeah.
And so if something really stressful happened to me and it rained a whole bunch, I would overflow and I'd feel stressed out and overwhelmed. And it was just, it was hard to deal with. So having these 2 months off and being able to enter into a state of flow on a regular, consistent basis, I feel rejuvenated and almost as if like I could pour a lot more of that stress, that water out of my bucket. And so now if it was to rain, I would be fine. I'm still able to like keep that calm, cool, collected nature, um, make wise choices, continue to take care of myself. I just feel like very rejuvenated.
I love how you used a bucket and water to explain flow because I feel like it's water flowing in and out, and that's very interesting and insightful.
So
Uh,
it's so funny. I used that like analogy a completely different way the other day, but I think it works for that too.
exactly. It's like filling your bucket of emotions too. Same thing.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Um, can you share some things that put you in a flow state?
Yes. So the first time that I learned about this concept, the what I instantly connected it to was learning how to snowboard. And I know you're from Edmonton, so I actually spent a season living in Banff.
Oh,
Uh,
very pretty.
yeah, Banff is just so beautiful. It's my goal to go back there someday soon. But I took a year off of university and did the whole like ski bum thing. But it was, I don't know, it was a while ago now. It was over 10 years ago now, and snowboarding was really cool, and I really wanted to learn how to snowboard. But so, I got all the gear, and the first few days on the hill were like excruciatingly difficult. I spent a lot of time on my butt. I was not very good. All of my friends were like, "See you later, Megan. Like, have fun on the bunny hill." But I was dedicated. Like I was like, no, like I'm gonna push through the pain. Like even though the challenge, like so, if like skill level challenge, like challenge was all the way up here, and my skill level was down here. So it was, it was stressful and difficult. But day after day, I'd say my skill level kind of improved. And I just had this moment where my abilities and the challenge of the run that I was doing met. And it was just like everything clicked. And like I was, I felt like a super version of myself. Like I felt like so proud. I felt like I had achieved something great. I felt in flow with nature, and I was able to do like then keep up with my friends on more difficult runs, and I was able, I'm a very social person, so being able to do that was like everything about it just induced this wonderful state of flow. And the first day that I was able to like have that challenge skill level meet, I was on the hill from like the first run of the day, the first time that the lifts opened, and then the next thing I knew, somebody was like, "All right, like I guess we got to do the ski out now." And I was like, "What? What time is it?" Like I thought it was only like 10:30 in the morning. They're like, "No, Megan, it's 3:30."
Oh, wow.
Like I didn't eat, I didn't use the washroom. Like I was just so absorbed in the activity, and like didn't, it was very novel at that point, and I was just like in that moment that I that's like the most vivid and most intense state of flow I've ever been in.
That's very awesome. I know first I ski and I definitely get in a state of flow in skiing as well.
Mm.
Interesting.
So beautiful being on the mountain and in the snow and in nature. Oh, love it.
Yes, for sure. What's an activity now that you find flow in often?
Writing. Writing has definitely become like whether it be, for my blog or for my social media or if it's just journaling,
Mhm.
um, I can get lost very easily in an essay or a journal article, journal post. Um, just being able to express my emotions. Like I wouldn't say it's the same. Like I wouldn't be able to do it for 9 hours straight, but even just like these little chunks of time writing and being able to use my voice like that definitely brings on a state of flow.
For sure. That's very interesting. I know for myself with journaling, I actually kind of journal how I blog, which is funny.
Mm,
Like it's very informative, and I feel like I'm like third person talking about my life, which is interesting. I definitely don't.
I
But
love
yeah,
that.
same.
It's just your voice.
Yes, for sure. Same thing. I feel like sometimes an hour goes by of me writing, and I'm like, oh, where where'd the time go? For sure.
No, that's good. You're lost in the moment. You're getting those flow benefits.
For sure. Now, you were talking about how, as a recreation therapist, you try to get your clients to go into a flow state through your activities. So, how do you do
Mhm.
that, and how would you set up an activity to put a client in flow or a person in flow?
That's such a good question. So, again, kind of like your previous question about what makes recreational leisure meaningful is knowing who you're serving, is knowing your clients, knowing what their skill level is, what the challenge of the activity is, and how you're going to be able to like keep them right in that sweet spot of where those two meet so that they're not like say their skill levels all the way up here and you're asking them to do something super easy because then you get bored, or they're not the opposite and then they get stressed out and anxious. um so it's really about knowing number one who your client is or who your clients are if you're running a group, and what you can do to tailor that activity to make sure that it's not too easy but it's not too difficult. And I really like front loading and explaining the reason why I'm doing something. And so I think sometimes we think as therapists that like, no, like we have to be so secretive about like the purpose behind the activity and blah blah blah. But I really like to share like, this activity is going to be challenging and it's meant to challenge you a little bit, and it might bring up some anxious feelings for you, especially when you're not excelling at it right away. But just give it some time. Believe that you can develop these skills, push through the challenge, and let's see where we can go. Like I really like kind of giving that like lifting up the veil and just sharing the purpose behind what I'm doing, because I think if they're able to understand that, like if somebody was trying to like teach me, get me to do a new activity, I want to know the why behind. So by sharing that, I feel like you're just giving them a little bit more of an incentive to stick with it when things get
Sure. I know in school we learn about that and are told to do that as well. And
hard.
my big thing on all of the recreation things I'm sharing is my education and how I'm supposed to apply it to clients, and then instead applying it to myself. So, how would you apply that to yourself? Would there be any changes?
Um, no, and I think that this kind of lines up perfectly with I'm reading a book right now, how conveniently placed, about mindset. I didn't plan that. And about knowing the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Hmm.
And so entering into a state of flow, like we said, we want that perfect kind of like balance between challenge and skill. And just like with me learning how to snowboard, if I had a fixed mindset, which I definitely did in the past, it would have been like, I'm not naturally talented enough. I'm not going to be able to learn this skill. I'm just going to go back to skiing because skiing is easy for me. I learned it as a kid. Fine. We'll just move on. I just can't do it. But by having a growth mindset, you kind of you understand that the challenge of learning something, like nobody's perfect at something right away, and it's going to take time and it's going to take effort, and like you have to develop those skills, but everybody has the capacity to do that. And when you believe that you can do it, you're more likely to stick with it. So kind of like I said about front loading my clients, I kind of give myself those little pep talks, like even with my YouTube channel, it's like, Megan, your first video is not going to be perfect. It's going to be with what you have right now, the knowledge that you're gaining as you go. And each video, just like your blog posts, are probably going to get a little bit better. And then in a year, 2 years, you can look back and see your growth. But nobody is perfect when they begin. And so I kind of like front load myself that knowledge so that I'm able to stick with it as well, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's awesome for sure. It's like giving yourself some motivation, being like, this is what could happen. I think it's also really important to like everyone's going to have some kind of failure along the way, and that's just normal and human.
Mhm.
Okay. I know for myself, um, I went back on my first podcast and I was sharing it with my mom, and I started counting how many times I said so. And then you could probably notice that I like very politely only say so in parts that are normal, because instead of saying I would be like, and so.
So yes, it's so funny how you pick up on those little things. And like, I'm a massive hand talker, and I'm like, I'm just gonna need to like sit on my hands at some point, maybe.
I feel like it engages you though.
I'll just hold on tightly to my cup of coffee.
I know in my previous leisure studies, we talked about video games being like a perfect place to find flow because you're constantly leveling up. So when you get to that skill level, then it goes up slightly, and how that's how people get consumed in video games. Is there
Mm.
any other activities that you can think of that are like that?
That's really interesting about the video games. I've like never been a video game person. Like I can play Mario Kart and that's it. But I do like, I have siblings that really got into it. Even my partner Jason, like he loves his video games. So that's a very interesting concept. I think honestly, anything. Like even going back to my example about snowboarding, like I if I say acquired those skills and challenge met skill perfectly on the bunny hill, but I only stayed at the bunny hill and kept riding that, my skill would have gone up and up and up. Um, and it would have become boring for me. But because I had the ability to say, then go to a blue run, and then go to a blue run with some like trees, and then go make my way up to like a black diamond and like or back country or whatever, like you can kind of continue to grow that. And I think, sports or writing or even what we're doing with blogging, it's like, okay, what can I do now to challenge myself, to push myself more? And I think those opportunities are always there. We might not see it at first, but I think they are there to like continue to level up.
For sure. Even when I'm hearing you, I'm also thinking about reading and how when you're younger, you start reading, say like volume 1, and then you go up progressively to different novels and harder novels. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I
Yeah,
think there's
and
a lot.
that's like exactly why the Harry Potter series did so well. I'm going to dork out for a second, but she wrote them as if it was actually like my age group she wrote them for, but it was like she wrote it the first one at a grade 6 level, and then every book she wrote was a little bit more challenging, so that as we grew up and as she released them, by the time we got to the 7th one, which was quite dark and scary, like I think I was in college by that point, and it was so cool.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that she did that.
Hmm.
Well, that kind of like wraps up our topic about flow. And I think there's lots of little tidbits that I learned even, and just good insight. So thank you. The next topic is your YouTube channel. I want to know all about it, where it's going. I know you posted your first one last week or the week before, which is very
Hmm.
exciting. So yeah, tell us what that has in store.
Yeah, I'm really excited about my YouTube channel, and this is kind of like a perfect example about leveling up because although I love post writing, I was definitely kind of getting to that point where it's like I felt like my skill level was a little bit above the challenge. Like I wasn't really feeling the challenge anymore of writing.
Mm.
But creating video and learning video editing and everything else that goes along with a YouTube channel is definitely something like way outside of my wheel of post of knowledge. Um, so it's a again, like another personal thing where it's like I want to grow, I want to continue to challenge myself. But also I know not everybody enjoys reading, and some people really like listening to podcasts. Some people really like watching YouTube channels. And I could not, like, when I did my YouTube searches, I couldn't find a lot about like recreational therapy. Like, there's a lot out there about positive psychology and flow and a lot of stuff that recreational therapists can use, but nobody who was like, I'm a rec therapist, this is my channel. Or I just couldn't find anybody. There could be somebody out there who's doing that right now. When I did my search, I couldn't find it. So I wanted to make a channel where I could not only just speak about recreational therapy and share some knowledge and insight around that, but being able to like intertwine all of these concepts and ideas that we use with positive psychology, with holistic health, with well-being, and our practice as rec therapists, and create some like really fun. I'm hoping that they're going to be fun videos to engage people to help them live a healthier, happier life.
For sure. I'm so excited to see them and use them in my own profession and then also personally. I think the beautiful thing about recreation therapy is many of the concepts, just like the everyday person, could also use them. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's exactly the purpose behind it. Is I want both professionals and students who are using it in their practice, like these concepts in their practice, to be able to watch them. But I would love, like, I want to be inclusive. Like, if somebody just stumbled upon it, that they could learn something that rec therapists are teaching on a daily basis. So I love that you put those two together
For sure. And then, do you have a certain project in the works right now?
for my YouTube channel. Yeah, so I'm actually doing some batch creation today, so I'm pretty excited about it. But where I'm starting with my YouTube videos are like I really want them to be practical ways to improve your well-being. So some of the things that I'm going to touch on today are, how to start and develop a gratitude practice. And I would like to like I said about the front loading with the groups is give the evidence-based reason why. Because I think we hear all the time like a gratitude practice can change your life and it's very good for you and you need to be doing one. But I don't know if we really hear like just how impactful it is and how it's like the one practice if you were going to pick up something new to improve your well-being that could completely change your life for the better. So that's one that I'm working on today, and then a few others that fall in that realm of positive psychology.
For sure. That's really exciting. Yeah, I'm trying to do that myself and I think it's really important to have that evidence-based piece that we're so gratefully taught in recreation
Mm.
therapy because yeah, I feel like there's so many bloggers or people who are speaking on really important topics, but they're not getting the scientific research that's actually there to back those points up as well, which is important.
Yeah, which is what keeps us credible as professionals, and it also, um, especially for anybody who really values research and really values that, like, the why behind. Like, I'm definitely one of those people. Like, I always kind of like, I understand what you're telling me, but like, I just need to know more. Can you just dive a little bit deeper so I really truly like grasp this concept? I like to be able to serve those people too.
So I'm excited to see the gratitude journal. It's exciting. I'm
Yeah.
one of my blog ideas is journaling, so I'll have to link that in there when you post it. So I'm excited.
Oh, awesome.
Another thing, I was creeping your website, and there's a new section called courses. So I want to know a bit about that.
Hey. So, yes, this is another project because, I don't have enough already. um, I I love teaching. Like, teaching for me has always been something that I've really enjoyed, and I think as rec therapists, even though it's like experiential, we're definitely teaching. Um, and so the next like practical move in this online space, or what I've gathered, has been taking your knowledge and your skills and your expertise and turning it into an online course. And the cool thing for rec therapists is that in order to keep your credentials, a CTRS, Certified Therapeutic Recreation Specialist, you need to have so many CEUs per year, continued education units. Sorry, I'm using like so many acronyms right now.
It's
And in order to be able to keep your certification, you need to continue your education. And there are quite a few amazing online educational resources right now. But I kind of like, I have a little bit of a different spin. And I'm excited to put together these courses so that I can hopefully give some evidence based knowledge that's going to impact the life of the provider. Because I think so often when we do our continued education, it's always about like up leveling your skills and learning about this new theory or this new treatment delivery option, and which is amazing and which is what we need to do. But I would like to take some time to go back to the helper, back to the provider, and what can you be doing in your own life so that you are living this like fully exceptional, true life that's true to you, that will then impact your service. Because personally, in my own experience, when I was dealing with burnout and compassion fatigue and struggling a lot with depression and anxiety, although I was showing up to work every day and I was getting the job done, I know that my ability to serve was compromised.
Mhm.
And I think learning about how to take care of my well being and focusing a lot more on that, taking care of self aspect. Every day I go into work now with a grateful heart, and my, attitude of service has changed. And so that's kind of the concept behind the course, this little sneak
I
peek.
am so excited for that. Yeah, I definitely think that as someone in a helper career, you need to be able to fill your bucket and keep it pretty filled before you give some of your bucket to others, especially like burnout fatigue. We
Yeah.
talk about it lots in class, and even I was a youth worker before, and I had no idea how to structure my own personal well-being to take on
Mhm.
all of these emotions they were having.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, it's definitely important, and I'm excited to have that in the CEU credits. I'll have to check it out when it comes out.
Yeah, thank you. And I think a really interesting fact that I learned not that long ago, but completely makes sense, is that anyone who kind of comes into these help helper professions, um, has most likely, like, they have a story about when they were a helper as, a teenager or as a child. Like, I know in my world, like, I always really liked taking care of my friends and taking care of my family, and I just wanted to make sure everybody was okay. And so it was very easy for me to be guided into like a helper profession. But what we don't realize is that when people have been doing that their whole lives, like, what they're taught and kind of what like is internally happening is that they realize that they get receive love and satisfaction through helping others, which is awesome. But then what happens when you enter into a job where you're just trying to help others, but your efforts, if you're working in mental health, like, you can't always help. Like, you can, let me see how I can phrase this. You can try your best to help, but if they're not in a space or they don't have the ability to change their own lives just yet, like, sometimes it feels like you're working a lot harder than they are. And it's just the situation that you're in, but not seeing that like immediate result or that immediate feedback of someone's life completely changing because like you help them. It can be really difficult for somebody who's new to the field to grasp the concept of, you know, change and what that looks like. And I just want to help these people live a healthier, happier life. Like, why can't they just change? And so I think that like being able to take the personality of a helper, which so many of us have, and entering into the field and learning those skills so that when you do have a hard day at work and something really challenging happens and you're not able to affect change the way you want to, and when you come home at the end of the day, you realize that number one, it's not you. And number two, this is an exceptionally important time for me to focus on my own self care. Um, yeah, I think that's like a big, that it just stirs up so much passion
For
in my
sure,
heart.
yeah. I think healthy boundaries and so many other concepts are so important in that, and
Mm.
For myself, I've also, like you said, as a helper, you come into it prior being a helper on your own. And so I
Mhm.
know I've had lots of different things come about in my life, supporting friends or family, and I had no boundaries, and I would just help and help and help until I needed help.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, setting healthy boundaries and then also asking for support yourself because lots of the time when you're this caring person, many people just think of you as okay, she's helping others, she's fine, but lots of
Mhm.
the time they need support too.
Exactly. And sometimes there's this weird personal stigma that we put on ourselves that we can give all the help in the world, but we can't ask for it. That's something that I dealt with internally. And I think it's just learning how to work through that and being like, everybody needs help. Nobody's perfect. We're all human and
Mhm,
it's okay to ask for help. I love that you said that.
for sure. Thank you. Lastly, do you have a recommendation that you want to share?
Oh, in with anything, with life in general.
Uh, yeah, typically like a podcast, a book, an app, a YouTube channel, anything.
Oh wow. So oh my goodness, that's such a good question. I'm really into books right now, and a book that had was it was the first book that I read that completely altered my vision of self care and kind of helped me see that in order to take care of other people, I need to first take care of myself. And it's going to be such a hilarious recommendation, but I'm going to grab it really quick.
Okay, sounds great.
It is "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero. Sincero. I don't know how you say her name. Um, but this book, it's like also the perfect entry for anybody into the space of like personal development and mindset because she writes it in the most hilarious ways. So if like you do not like cursing, please do not read this book. Um, but if you're cool with it, like I've read it so many times and it's just I recommend it to everybody because I think it really just helped me see my negative thought patterns. Which it was a personal thing, but again, it affected every aspect of my life. So that's the book I would recommend. And podcast, I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time, and I have so many. But again, the first one that really helped me on my like journey of growth and development was actually Oprah's Soul Sessions. And the cool thing about it is, I mean, I love Oprah. I think she's amazing, but she interviews all of these brilliant minds who are able to intertwine science and spirituality and well-being, and they do it in such like cool, informative ways. When I found Soul Sessions, I totally binged it. That would be another awesome recommendation.
Awesome, thank you so much. I think uh, both of those are great. I have heard that You Are a Badass is a really good book, so maybe I'll have to pick it up and read it as well. I think the important thing about being on a professional platform or just on any kind of platform is sharing other people's resources, which is why
Mhm.
I stuck to a podcast, is because I find YouTube is great and I like the sharing resources because you are only as good as your own knowledge. And so
Mm.
being able to pull in people like you who are a practicing recreation therapist for 8 years and all of your resources, I'm sure you have multiple. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, no problem. I'm so happy to come on and speak with you. And, I forgot that you were a student, honestly, because you're doing so much right now and you're stepping up on this online platform. And we have a growing community of rec therapists, which I think, like online, which I think is really cool.
For sure.
But just the fact that, like, you're entering into the field with such, like, a heart of service and, like you said, trying to share your knowledge, and you seem wise beyond your years. So I am very happy to help, and I'm excited to see where this takes you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing. It was so exciting to have you on. And I'm sure in the future I'll have you on again because you have so many different topics you talk about. So thank you.
Hey, no problem.
For all of you wondering how you can reach out to Meagan and how you can learn more about what she has to offer and what she's putting out to the world, the links will be below. So you'll be able to contact her on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and also her blog. So go check her out.
Thank you for letting me share some ways to cultivate your moments.